strategic brilliance and intelligence to the White House for the president. I know that people who are still trying to fight this last war of 3 weeks ago, who seem immersed in the permanent campaign, who certainly are in the stages except for acceptance, are now trying to besmirch Donald Trump through one of his top advisors. And I think, again, as I said earlier about some of the issues, the country will see through that, and they will give this guy who said in the wee hours of Wednesday, November 9th, that he would be the president of all Americans, not just those who supported him. I think they'll give him a chance to form his government.
Do you think that was the message he sent out through the entirety of the campaign?
What, that he be the president of all Americans? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's who he's going to be. He said it when he was elected,
No, but I meant during the campaign, given things that he said and did during the campaign, which, part of the reason that Steve Bannon became something of a controversy when he was brought in was because it seemed to dovetail with some of the things that Trump had said during the campaign on issues of race or religion or, constitutionality, those kinds of things. So
I've got a question. I was in the campaign since the beginning till the end. And I'm what specific instances are you referring to about what he said about race and religion?
We're talking about the Muslim ban. We're talking about what he said about Mexicans in that opening.
Illegal immigrants is what he was speaking
to. Country.
No, Judge Curiel couldn't do his job because he was Mexican heritage.
Even though he was from Indiana.
We can go through the list, but it's not as though there weren't moments in the campaign where he created controversy having to do with race or gender or religion.
But Dan, can we?
But how does that affect? But Steve, your question was about Steve Bannon.
Well, because he was. Because
you're trying to dovetail the two things. So when Donald Trump said something in January, February, March, April, whenever, had nothing to do with the smear campaign of the left on Steve Bannon today. Okay, well, it's ridiculous. And to be candid with you, the guy is an unbelievably brilliant strategist who is really a terrific guy who, as Kellyanne just said, a guy who has a Harvard pedigree and is getting attacked by people who have no idea who he is.
We
happen to be sitting here, but listen, he gets held to a standard that none of these other folks are.
Well, if providing a platform for white supremacists makes me a brilliant tactician, I am glad to have lost. And give me a minute, David. I am more proud of Hillary Clinton's all right speech than any other moment on the campaign because she had the courage to stand up. I would rather lose than win the way you guys did.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes.
That's very clear today. No, you wouldn't, respectfully. Rather, I'm sorry, how exactly did we win? No, go for it, Jen. How exactly did we win? I'd like to know because I've sacrificed the last 4 months of my life to do it. Excuse me. And we did it. And we did it by looking at the schedule and looking at, yes, the electoral map of 270, because that's how you win the presidency. And we went places and we were either ignored or mocked roundly by most of the people in this room, but I have a smile on my face at all times. And we did it by focusing with Steve Bannon and Dave Bossie and everybody you see here. They're going to say, she just said Corey was part of the campaign. Jeff Zucker. Okay, Corey until what was that, June? And we focus on how you win. We connected with voters. We connected with voters.
Hiring is himself. We've already gone through some of the examples of his own languages, his own positions that I believe are at odds with my value as an American of embracing diversity, inclusivity, equality. And hiring someone like Steve Bannon,
which is exactly what Breitbart is.
Who would Breitbart?
If you guys just spend a few minutes on Breitbart,
give these people a platform.
You say things doesn't make it true.
One of my proudest moments of her is her standing up and saying with courage and clarity, in Steve Bannon's own words and Donald Trump's own words, the platform that they gave to white supremacists, white nationalists, and it is a very very important moment in our history as our country. And I think as, his presidency goes forward, I'm going to be very glad to have been part of the campaign that tried
Hey, Jen, do you think that excuse me, she said white supremacists.
Well, I would actually like to follow up.
I know it's mentioned a lot on your website, too. Do you think I ran a campaign where white supremacists had a platform? You going to look me in the face and tell me that?
It did. Kellyanne
really?
did.
Oh, and that's how you lost?
It did.
Do you think you could have just had a decent message for the white working class voters? Do you think this woman who has nothing in common with anybody...
I'm not saying that's why you won, but that's
these
kind
counties
of campaign
we
that was
flipped
run.
Over 200 counties that President Obama won and Donald Trump just won. You think that's because of what you just said or because people aren't ready for a woman president? Really? How about it's Hillary Clinton? She doesn't connect with people. How about they have nothing in common with her? How about you had no economic message?
Guys,
we are. You guys are not.
They want this to be about a strategist. That's right.
You guys are punching down. It's unbelievable.
You know who you're talking about. One Steve Bannon. Well, there's another Steve Bannon as the CEO of Breitbart. He himself has said that was a platform for the alt-right. Folks from the platform. Now, you have just 2 weeks ago, in the rise of the alt-right, which is now part of the mainstream of our politics, America is for white people. So don't tell me, and that is the kind of platform, there's a video of it. That is
No. Prove yourself what you just said, Karen. Prove yourself. Okay? Prove yourself. The alt-right is the mainstream American politics.
No, I said now they've come to the mainstream. Part of what Donald Trump did in this campaign was to mainstream the alt-right.
I actually have a question about that specifically for the Clinton campaign.
By bringing Steve Bannon into the campaign and now appointing him to the White House and Jeff Sessions potentially as our Attorney General.
Hey, Karen,
you guys are bitter.
I have a very specific question about the alt-right. Which is,
I've been very gracious. You're bitter.
I'd say that they see Donald Trump as their standard bearer, as their guy, and now we've arrived. So are you telling them that's not true?
Can I just
not true.
Kellyanne, may I ask them a question, please? So one question that we did have, there was a bit of a debate. The alt-right is a real thing. Steve Bannon has said that. That's true. But it was a fairly obscure movement. And there has been a debate about whether Hillary Clinton naming them this summer, did that give elevation? And just in the sense that, obviously I would anticipate that you might say you were responding, which is a fair thing to say. But was that a concern with the campaign that you were elevating something that was fairly obscure into the mainstream dialogue?
And did the comment about the basket of deplorables provide energy to the Trump campaign down the stretch of the election?
Yes.
Yeah, their error with the basket of deplorables, their candidates' errors, were much more important than any one person that you want to smear today.
I'm sorry. We're not trying to smear anybody. You say let's talk the truth. No, let me say something, David, without interrupting me. I haven't interrupted anybody on your panel the whole day.
Except me.
Steve Bannon said he created the platform for the alt-right. We have seen Richard Spencer have a group of followers in Washington, D.C., giving the Nazi salute during his speech about that. When you ask Kellyanne about what did Donald Trump say, I'm waiting for someone here to tell me who you're taking the country back from. Is it my grandparents who came here 2 generations ago? I'm trying to figure out who that message was for. Was it for the people in the...
You tried all that.
Was it Kelly, I'm not trying to relitigate it, but if you want to, no, I am not.
You're certainly not being analytical.
I am certainly being analytical. Across the 6 key battleground states, the large ones that we contested.
Well, we saw 14. The problem is we saw 14 battleground states.
Well, there was 6 where the tipping point states
14.
were. Fine, Kelly. We know we started with 14 across Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, and North Carolina. In each of those states, that's right, and you did. And I have said from the beginning, you won the campaign. But if we're talking about the history of the campaign, there were dog whistles sent out to people. And in those states, 20 to 31% of people said that they believe minorities are favored in this country, that's how the country works. Donald Trump won those people by 6-1 to 10-1 in each of those states.
Donald Trump also
won more
African American votes.
You ever think that it was your left-wing policies that were driving people to that thought, not some website that no one ever heard about?
Well, a lot of folks have heard about Breitbart, but to Joel's point, from the very beginning of Donald Trump's campaign. He was very clear, and again, I agree with Jen. I am very proud that in our campaign we would never use those kinds of tactics. He trafficked
you
in
called him a
race
sexist, a racist, a misogynist, xenophobic daily.
in race
And it blew
and
back on you
fear-mongering
because
and
it's not an
exploiting people's
aspirational,
economic
optimistic
fears.
message. How in the world did we have a female candidate whose closing arguments were so negative? Where's the uplifting, aspirational, visionary message of Barack Obama or Bill Clinton? The two presidents she was trying to succeed. Where was it? It was all about Donald Trump. She was obsessed with Donald Trump. Obsessed with calling him a racist, a xenophobe, a homophobe, a sexist, and guess where it got you?
And the basket of deplorables.
Message was she's being indicted. I'm going to put her
No.
in jail.
No.
I'm going to lock her up. Really?
Yeah, look at
It
our
was
rallies.
changed.
that
Go
you
look at-
poo-pooed.
go look at
our
your-
rallies
Kellyanne,
and all
look
the
at your
people,
rallies.
All those people, the rallies
He
mattered.
delivered it, and your ad did it every day, Kellyanne.
What are you talking about? His closing message was about bringing jobs back to this country, which he's in Indianapolis today doing exactly that with Carrier before he's even the president. It could have been done, but he had to do it. His closing message was about being fair to the American worker, making America safe and prosperous again. His closing message is about reforming the Veterans Administration, where your president and my president, President Barack Obama, has presided over a dysfunctional VA.
Actually, our closing argument video didn't even have Hillary in it.
Making Americans safe again from Muslim Americans and immigrants to
Guys,
this
I
country.
can tell you're angry, but wow. I mean, hashtag he's your president. How's that?
and you know what?
I was
Hashtag-
asked 100 times on TV. They're all here, maybe 1,000 times. Will he accept the election results? Will he accept? Will you ever accept the election results? Really? Will you tell your protesters he's their president too?
Hashtag
Teddy's
Kellyanne,
funny, right?
I know
you weren't expecting it, but seriously, he's not your president. You weren't raised the way I was to respect the office of the presidency
Kellyanne,
and
that
who
is
occupies
beautiful rhetoric.
it.
Look, my point
Beautiful
back to you
rhetoric.
is
We wanna-
hashtag.
Yes, we won.
If he's going to be my president, then he needs to show me that white supremacy is not acceptable. Doors, just steps
A
from
million times,
the
and you
Oval
know it.
Office.
Now you're just lying.
Not ever
That's
with
right.
the veracity
Get out
that he
of
has
here. He's
attacked.
denounced it. He
Kellyanne.
did it in the New
now-
York Times on
okay,
the
so
record.
now
I was
it's
right
good
next to
enough.
him last week.
We're going to call a halt to this for a moment.
Ridiculous.
Another question?
I also want to know, when did Hillary Clinton expect to lose?
Well, obviously on election night, we briefed her on what was happening. It was clear we were losing.
So no sooner.
No, I mean, I think we felt, we had a confidence going into election day. Look, I think the other thing, Kellyanne's going to disagree with this, but I think, again, I cannot emphasize enough as we were, because both campaigns were tracking every single night. I do think the undecideds broke against us. I do. And they did. But again, I cannot emphasize enough, based on the data we were seeing every night, that Comey letter had a huge effect.
Well, why did Mrs. Clinton say it didn't? Because she said that very night up at the podium. Was she not telling the truth, Robbie? She said, oh, everybody has already decided what they think about the emails. It won't matter.
And boy, is that what we hoped.
Oh, okay.
But obviously, I don't think you guys give yourself
She
enough
has a
credit.
universe of her own.
I don't
to coin a
think
phrase.
you give yourself enough credit for the negative campaign you ran. Because I hear this heroic story and, of him connecting with voters. And I think Corey called it great branding. I think you did a very brilliant job of branding her, less than him. I mean, he limped into this, and God knows he's won, and more credit to all of you. But he has the worst negatives of anybody ever elected. The only other person who had those kind of negatives was Hillary. And I think you did an excellent job of keeping it that way and using media sources that I don't think most of the people in this room follow. They don't watch Alex Jones. They don't read Breitbart every day. They don't know what was on the cover of the National Enquirer every week. They are not watching the fake Facebook stuff or the great dark arts stuff you were pumping out there. There is a world that many people were watching where Hillary Clinton was dying for months of Parkinson's. Rudy would say it on the air occasionally. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. She's, just got days to live. She's going to jail. She's going to jail any minute now. Donald Trump would say it periodically, but there was a very impressive gassing of her that obviously played into things that existed, as I think Kellyanne and David Bossie both talked about. but you do not give yourself credit for how negative it was and how effective it was.
Do you think that's why we won over 200 counties that President Obama won? In other words, he must have had a different message than that. So is that how we turn those counties?
Take the compliment, Kellyanne. Like I'm trying to.
I would if it were one, but
well, it's not. No, it is one, because you also took the FBI that final Comey thing, and I understand that last 2-minute or whatever it was ad was positive, but I also remember
it wasn't positive. It just wasn't about Hillary.
About her.
Right. Okay. It wasn't about her.
Just
exactly.
To be
it wasn't
honest
positive.
about it.
But I also know that most of what was on the air used the letters FBI. And
it was out there.
Most of what he ended talking about.
We're still marketers, so if it's out there,
Absolutely. And I'm just saying, it wasn't just that Comey made this announcement. They used it really well. They used it in television. They used it in these channels that you weren't watching. He used it in his speeches. It is nice to think that he ended with an uplifting message, but I'm looking at the message, and the message is Hillary Clinton is guilty. She knows it. The FBI knows it. The people know it. And now it's up to the American people to deliver justice at the ballot box on November 8th. Like, that's a good, strong message. But it is not like uplifting and, let's give that man mandate for, doing wonderful things for the country. I give them credit. We gave you the material to work with. The Comey gave you the material to work with, but do not underestimate the power of that negative campaign. Brad, you haven't had time to talk about some of the Facebook stuff you were doing on the negative side. I'm fascinated to hear all about that because it's so hard for us to track. But
it is
that
very
was
hard. I agree.
Was a very powerful.
The media had no idea unless I told them.
I know, and
that's the beauty of Facebook.
For being candid about it. But I think the media didn't understand a lot of what you were doing and a lot of the media channels you used.
I don't take it as a non-compliment. I think the compliment is. I think that we had to get messages out to all kinds of people. But I just don't agree with most of it negative.
I brought my National Enquirer with me from the last week. Hillary, corrupt, racist, criminal. I mean, the use
It didn't say crooked, though.
What?
It didn't say crooked.
No.
So our messaging wasn't working.
I think they got the message. But I think the use of the National Enquirer in the primaries, I think it was a really effective negative campaign, and I don't think you all get the credit for it.